Hi! Hi, my name's Danny and this is an intro vlog. This is a book vlog! I'm not really sure how to make an intro vlog, so instead I just found this survey from the internet. It's called the Z Bookish Survey that I found from Perpetual Page Turner, link in the description. Okay, letter A. Author you've read the most books from. I don't really read too many books by the same author, mostly have like 3 or 4 at most, but let's see. Oh, J.K. Rowling, cause Harry Potter, it has 7 books, and also I read the Hogwarts supplement, like the Hogwarts library, so that makes it 10, so J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is my answer. B. Best sequel ever. My answer to this is Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler, which is the second and last book to her Earthseed series. When I picked it up, I actually didn't know that it was a sequel, but I think that it was written in such a way that it could very well be a standalone. The Earthseed series itself is a very good series, and I recommend it. It's a very compelling narrative in the effects of war in community and religion, and also family, especially mother and daughter relationships, which I really, really like in the stories that I read. C is currently reading, and for that I have Generation X by Douglas Copeland. I'm only a few pages in, but I had to stop just because I'm not sure if I could really read another story about 20-somethings trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. And I'm kind of scared of that because I'm also a 20-something trying to figure out what to do with my life, so. And then I picked up this, Why is E equals MC squared and Why We Should Care. And Why Should We Care by Brian Cox and Jeff Forshaw. It's an account of modern physics that is written in layman's term, which I really appreciate. I remember picking it up when I was in first year and I was trying to decide my major. I was actually thinking of majoring in physics, which didn't happen, but anyway, this was published in 2009, and I really wanted to read it now before everything in it becomes obsolete, given that science progresses really fast. And modern physics is actually one of my interests anyway, so hopefully I'll finish this within the week. D is drink of choice when I'm reading. I don't really have a drink of choice when I'm reading, but when I was in university I drink a lot of coffee and tea when I was doing some school readings, so maybe that. E is e-reader or physical book. I don't really have a preference, but depending on the situation I would pick one over the other. Like for instance, when the room is dark, of course I would pick the e-reader. Physical books, especially the used ones, have this added benefit of me being able to read other people's marginalia, which I really appreciate a lot because I like to see what other people think of the book that I'm reading. So F is fictional character that I would have probably dated in high school. I don't really get attracted to characters in the way that I would want to date them, so I don't really know. Also, I didn't date in high school. G is glad you gave this book a chance, and my answer for that is J. Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla. It's a novella from the 19th century, and there's a web series, a modern retelling web series that came out this year. And you know, I would have been fine with that because in general, at least in my opinion, modern retellings are just better than the classic ones because they're more catered to my interests as a modern woman. The source material is just really good in that Carmilla, the character, she's Eastern European, she's a woman, she has romantic feelings toward other women, and she's a vampire! She is the ultimate other, and the way that she is portrayed in the narrative, she's not like totally demonized, because then she's presented to us through this narrator character, Laura, and the way that Laura reacts to Carmilla is just really open. You know what I mean? Like, it's so amazing. Read it, please. And H is for Hidden Gem Book, and for that I picked White Oleander by Janet Fitch. Now, this is by no means an underrated book because it's really good and it's critically acclaimed, but like, I haven't really met anyone who's read this, let alone liked it. The narrative of finding home and then the relationship between mother and daughter, it just blew me away. And yeah. I is important moment in your reading life, and I could actually think of two important moments in my reading life. One is when I picked up the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. I picked it up because the local bishops where I was from, they wanted to ban it because it was pretty blasphemous, and like, I wanted to know what the fuss was all about. I wasn't really the reading type before then, but when I picked that up, I liked it, and then I kind of got exposed to the kind of art that I wasn't really paying attention to, because Dan Brown did a really good job in like researching the art stuff, I thought. And anyway, I started talking about that, and then that led me to like a group of people who are also reading outside of school, and then we got to talk about that, and they gave me recommendations, so that kind of like kick-started my reading life, I suppose. The second important moment in my reading life is when I took a course in literary theory, and then not only did I learn how to read more critically, but also my taste in the books that I read kind of shifted as well. I tend to really enjoy them just because I get more out of them when I'm thinking more critically about them, and I really appreciate that. J is just finished, and for that I have The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. This is my first Anne Bronte act. This one, I read it fairly quickly. I liked it more than I thought I would, because I'm not generally a fan of, well, I wouldn't say not a fan, just because I haven't really read a lot of romance classics, but this one, oh my god, please read this. It's really good. I didn't know it at the time, but apparently this is the first feminist English novel, which, you know, I really appreciate, and it certainly does appeal to my feminist tendencies, so good, recommend it. Good. K is for kinds of books that you won't read. I don't know, I feel like I read everything that I'm interested in regardless of the genre, so manuals, instruction manuals, I guess, I wouldn't read those. L is for longest book you've ever read. I don't really pay attention to the length of the book, like, I mean, unless they're really long, like War and Peace, so. But from what I've seen from other videos, some of them listed A Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin, which I've read also, so maybe that. I think it's like 1,000 pages. I'm not really sure, I don't have my copy with me, so. M is for major book hangover because of. Sometimes I do stop reading for a while after like a certain book, but generally the reasons for that aren't really book related. But I guess in terms of books that really stayed with me for a long time, it would be Frankenstein, because yeah, the themes from that book touched my very core, so even after I read it like several months later, I'm still finding it relevant to other books that I've been reading, even other media that I'm consuming, like books and films. So I think it's a really good book though. So I mean, N is for number of bookcases you own. My sister and I share 2 bookcases. O is for one book that you've read multiple times, and my answer to that is Harry Potter. Especially Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I think that, because that's my favorite also, so I think that's the one that I read the most. That or Deathly Hallows. I don't know. P is preferred place to read. I can read anywhere, but I would like to sit on a couch and then read. Any couch, actually, just, you know, just let me sit there and I would read. A couple of years ago when I went to Montreal, I went to the beach and I was reading, and I found it to be a really good experience. I like the feel of the heat on my skin. The steady rhythm of the waves hitting the beach is really calming to me, and I feel like that's an experience that I would like to repeat again. Q is for quote that inspires you and gives you all the feels from the book you've read. This one's not from the book that I read per se, but Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the 1818 version. The epigraph is a quote from Paradise Lost. Did I request thee, Maker, from my clay to mold me man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me? So I think that really encapsulates one of the main messages of Frankenstein, and I really, really like it. R is for reading regret. I wouldn't say regret in a sense that I didn't get anything from reading them, but when I was starting university, I read a lot of Richard Dawkins's books on evolutionary biology. Maybe his writing is one of the reasons why I got it. I mean, I'm not blaming him per se, but I think reading most of his books singularly made me think that science exists in a vacuum in a way that it doesn't interact with things like, say, politics. Science is actually a very political field when you think about it. I was reading Stephen Jay Gould's essays recently, and I keep thinking that what if I read Stephen Jay Gould instead of Richard Dawkins? Stephen Jay Gould is really brilliant, and he talks in this manner that's not condescending, which kind of is characteristic of Dawkins. It's not like I didn't learn anything from Richard Dawkins. I actually did appreciate his biology writings. I guess in terms of humanity itself, I would have preferred reading Stephen Jay Gould. And then S is for series that you need to finish, as in all the books have been out already, so you don't have an excuse. And for that, I have the Wicked Years series by Gregory Maguire. I read Wicked a long time ago and I loved it. I loved it so much that I actually went to get Son of a Witch immediately afterwards, and I actually got through a third of it, but then final exams happened and I just kind of forgot. So now I'm gonna try to read this and then read all the remaining books because I heard they're good also. T is for 3 of your all-time favorite books, and then obviously one of them is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, the 1818 original text. Also Fifth Business by Robertson Davies, and The Emperor of All Maladies, The Autobiography of Cancer by Siddhartha Mukherjee. They're all brilliant, and maybe I'll make another video for each of those later. U is for Unapologetic Fangirl 4, and of course my answer is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. V is for very excited for this release among all others. I don't really pay attention to the release of new books, so I don't have an answer for this. Sorry! W is for worst bookish habit, and for that I have going to the library and picking up a bunch of books and not being able to read them when they're due. Either I end up paying overdue fines or just return them without reading them. X is for X marks the spot, and for that you're supposed to find the 27th book on your bookshelf from the left. And for that I have Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs, a collection of essays by Chuck Klosterman. I haven't actually read the whole thing yet. Y is for your most recent book purchase, and for that I have these two, Roxane Gay's Bad Feminist and All About Love by Bell Hooks. I read this and I think I was expecting a lot more from it than I got, but I would still recommend it. Bad Feminist I haven't read yet because I got distracted by other books, but I read the introduction for it at the bookstore, and right then and there I wanted it. I needed this book, so yeah. It's also very well reviewed, so I'm really looking forward to this. And lastly, Z. Z is for Z Snatcher, or a book that made you stay up all night. The one I remember that kept me up all night is A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. I remember crying at the sad parts, but I have to keep quiet because my roommate is sleeping right next to me. So like, I don't know, but I was crying and I stayed up all night. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the A to Z Bookish Survey. And I'm actually losing my voice because I took a lot of takes. I'm new to this. Please forgive me. Please. Bye. See you next time.